We were talking about the gun show loophole and expanding background checks, and you can click on this comment and click see comment and go watch that video if you're watching this video on TikTok. If you're watching it on YouTube, you obviously cannot. This person says all 50 states require a mandatory background check per the Brady Act 1993. That is standard procedure, but it's not standard procedure for people selling private to private gun sales or conducting private to private gun sales. That applies to federally licensed firearm dealers, not to you and I. If I have a gun and I'm in a state that doesn't put any additional restrictions on me selling that gun directly to you, then no, I don't need to run a background check. And that's what the gun show loophole is. The gun show loophole is private collectors being able to sell at gun shows in, I think the number is 33 states, I think is the official number. Being able to sell to a private individual as a private individual without having to conduct a background check, because the Brady Act does not cover firearm transfers by unlicensed private sellers. Never has. Does not currently. Oddly enough, if we could just interject a little historical fact, Brady, who the act was named after, he was shot when there was an attempt on President Reagan's life. He was serving a Republican president. He's a conservative himself. But regardless, anyway, the Brady Act, the background checks, the federally mandated background checks only apply to federally licensed firearm dealers. They do not apply to person-to-person sales. There are states that say, we don't care in our state if the federal government doesn't want you to submit to a background check. In our state, you have to, even if you are a private seller. And that's fantastic. That should be nationwide. But there are many red states that say, no, you don't have to do that. And as a result, private sellers are allowed to sell guns at gun shows. So you could have a booth that's, and I don't know how the setup of the gun shows work, but you could have a booth in one area of the gun show that's a federally licensed firearm dealer that has to follow the Brady Act and has to submit a background check. And you could have another booth in another part of the gun show that's a private seller who is just selling guns and doesn't have to conduct background checks. That's where straw purchases come into play. People who know they can go to gun shows in these 33 states and buy as many guns as they want from private sellers without even having to give them their fucking name. And they do this and then take those guns and sell them on the black market in cities like New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Because that's where they can get large quantities of guns without drawing attention to themselves. Because the seller doesn't have to ask them for that information. Doesn't have to mandate that they go through a check. Should they? Yes. Do they have to by law? No. Because you're wrong.